Okay, so there's one cleaning task I can't imagine anyone loves: cleaning burnt pots. It's happened to all of us. You leave a pot unattended on the stove for just a minute, but before you know it, you've burnt your dinner and your pot. There are lots of cleaning methods out there, but which ones really work? Shoana put them to the test, and here's what she did. Shows you took 4 pots, you burned them, then you set out to clean them up and get them shiny and new for us. Now I want to know, did you have fun doing this? Because this seems like something you might enjoy.
It was totally fun. For starters, I purposefully got to burn something. I mean, that is a never thing. Although I'll tell you, it smelled really bad. But then I had it in my head like, whoa, I heard about all these different ways that could work and couldn't work. And so it was totally fun to do. I agree. Yeah.
Okay, so your first method you used is deglazing. Tell us how that works.
Yeah, let me first tell you, just so everybody totally understands, what I did to the pot. So I took the same pot, burnt canned spaghetti and tomato sauce and teriyaki sauce. So we got some sugar in there to make sure it really burnt up. And I let that pot sit for 2 days because I'm not going to judge someone who burns a pot and then doesn't want to deal with it. If you let that sit for 2 days, that's what I wanted to work with. Kind of that worst case scenario. Oh my gosh, that stinks. I'm going to put that over there. And then, so that's what we did with all the pots to make sure everything had the exact same kind of burn level. Okay. So the first one was deglazing. So what I did with it was, the idea behind that is boiling off, like deglazing is a cooking technique. So I washed the pot with dish soap and water first. I soaked it for an hour, hot water and dish soap, soaked it for 1 hour, walked away. I came back, and the idea with deglazing is I would wash out the pot with whatever little bit got out of it from the soaking, boil some water in dish soap, and use a scraper to kind of slowly cook off and lift off those burnt pieces. I'll tell you, this one did not go at all what I thought. So I used the dish soap that I had, and I just so happens to use Mrs. Meyer's dish soap. Well, after an hour of the soaking, can I tell you that this pot was almost entirely clean of all that burnt stuff? I couldn't believe it, which I'm excited about because it proves that a biodegradable, eco-friendly product that some people say aren't as strong or as effective as these awful chemical ones out there, it kicked butt. It was amazing. There was almost nothing left for me to deglaze off the pot. I never thought that that would happen. I mean, I like that dish soap. It's my favorite one. That's why I had it. But I was blown away. So I deglazed it. I did that just to get those last little bits off of it. It cleaned it, very little effort, very, very quickly, other than the 1 hour of soak time. But actually taking it on the stovetop, it was amazing. I loved it.
Okay, well, this is good to know, and I love Mrs. Meyer's too because it smells so good. It smells so good. Okay, the next method came highly recommended from Chef Randy. How did this one pan out? What'd you do?
Okay, well, chefs do know best. So what I did, though, to make this fair for the rest is I switched dish soaps. I went and got a different one because if all of them got perfectly clean, then we couldn't purposefully test the rest of the other methods. So Randy's, so I soaked it for an hour in hot water, and the new dish soap, I cleaned out what got lifted up by that soak. And then Randy's advice, which used to be my go-to, was vinegar and baking soda. You boil that, I did it for roughly 10 minutes, see what lifts off, quite a bit lifts off. Then you rinse it out and you do a scrub of salt, like a really coarse salt, like a kosher salt. You scrub out all of that to finish off the pan. And I will tell you, it worked 100% as well.
Okay, good stuff. Now, it looks like things are going pretty well. I'm curious about your next method, dry heat. How does that work?
Okay, well, dry heat was something I kind of came up with that, very long story short, we had our cast iron pot, our Dutch oven. It got something burnt on it. We ate dinner. I didn't feel like dealing with it, so I just washed it out with soap and water, and I left it. Now, with cast iron pots, after you wash them, you put them on the element a little bit and you warm them up again to make sure that last remaining moisture is out so you don't get rust in your cast iron. So that's typical. I did that. I left it. The next morning we got up. Greg put it away, not knowing that I intended to clean it. I forgot about it. Pulled out the pot the next time we went to use it, and Greg said, "What's all this black dust in here?" It had totally disintegrated all of the burnt stuff. I guess the trapped heat, this is not scientific. This is just my, my experience. So when this came up, I was like, well, I have to know if this works in stainless steel. Did I just discover like the best way to fix a burnt pot ever? So I did what we did for the other ones. I soaked it in hot water and dish soap. I dried it. I put it on the element. I put the lid on it. I turned it up. I let it heat. I opened it thinking that it was going to be like all dust and perfectly clean. No, it wasn't.
No.
It didn't work. So I'm not sure if it was just a cast iron thing that we lucked out in, but nonetheless, that dry heat method is not a cure-all, so it didn't work.
Okay, all right. I was very interested to see that one. That one didn't work, but it did work on cast iron. Okay, last one for the challenge is...
The last one was an internet one. So the internet told us that if I used a dishwasher tab, the hard kind, and I scrubbed all the burnt spots away, it would lift all of that burnt spots, all the burnt crustiness. So I did the same thing. Soaked it for an hour in the hot water to make sure everything was level. I washed it. I took the tablet. I went to scrape it, and it like dissolved immediately. Of course, tablets are supposed to dissolve. That's what they're designed to do. It dissolved immediately, so it absolutely did not work. And out of curiosity, I thought, well, what if I soaked a couple of dishwasher tablets in? So I threw a couple of them in, and I let it soak there for a couple of hours while I ran out and did an errand. Came back, absolutely nothing lifted off the pot. So that was an internet trick that definitely did not work.
Okay, so now what's your recommendation? I know which one I love. I love putting the boiling water and the dish soap into the pot and just letting it do the work for me. That's worked for me in a pot with like burnt rice, which is the worst.
Yeah.
What's your recommendation?
Yeah. I mean, the dish soap, the Mrs. Meyer specifically, because it was the least amount of work. It was the absolute easiest, and you don't need multiple ingredients. So for sure, that's my recommendation. But if you don't have it, the second runner-up definitely is the baking soda, vinegar, and salt.
Fantastic. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for burning all that food for us. I mean, the things you do for Cityline, my goodness.
I know.
So dedicated.